Hello everyone, this is Lomi. Back in the spring, I began a major project aiming to transform my first doll into my favorite character from my work-in-progress novels. The project wasn't easy, and I had to make a lot of small adjustments to the character's design to work in doll scale, but I learned a lot. After the better part of a year, Rune is finally done. It took almost 7 years to get him to this point, and while not everything is perfect, I'm very happy with the end result. In the past year, I've received a lot of messages, both privately and through comments, expressing interest in this character's story. His whole story is enough to fill 3 books, but the most common question was, why does he have scaly hands and feet? I will answer that, but first we'll look at the long trip the doll has taken to his current look. One of the more common questions I received was what he looked like before his face was modified. The best way to show you is to share a before and after photo, and this way you also get to see the first face-up I ever did. I didn't do the facial modifications myself. They were done by my wonderful friend Ashley, and I think they turned out wonderful. His chin was reduced and his nose was reshaped to remove cracks. Then his jawline was softened just a bit and his cheeks were filled to match the rounder shape after the damage was repaired. That change was what really kick-started the long road to complete this doll. Over the course of the year, I've made him wigs out of synthetic and alpaca fiber and also trimmed the cut alpaca fiber to soften the look. I created custom elbow pieces for his arms and modified his knees to fit well enough to let him stand on his own. Painting his fantasy parts was a big ordeal but turned out so well. I modified an existing pattern to make his shirt and created new ones for both his jacket and pants. I shared the process of making his gauntlets and creating a pattern for his spats, which are probably my favorite part of his outfit. I removed his old face-up when it was damaged and gave him a new one. The hardest part of the project was making his sword from scratch using 3D printing and finishing it by hand. After that, making his scabbard was easy. All these videos can be watched in the project playlist I've created for him. But now I'll get back to that question. Why the lizard parts? The answer is that in the world I've created for him, magic users are bound to one energy source and divided into 5 elements called affinities. This limits their strength, but also protects them from magic's destructive power, which can burn a mage out of existence in seconds. When Rune was born, a group of mages seeking to increase their own strength tampered with his abilities, removing his bonds of affinity and creating what they believed was the first free mage. But a mortal body isn't meant to contain that much chaotic power, and the price he paid for their mistake was the uncontrollable magic corrupting his body and changing him into a monster. The mages were able to halt the change, which is why he's still part human, but his greatest goal in life, and the biggest storyline in his books, is his quest to restore himself to normal, either by learning to control his wild power or finding a way to get rid of it altogether. So there you have it. I'll probably make many more things for this doll in the future. But for now I'm just celebrating this project finally being done and focusing on finding a literary agent to represent his stories. Thank you for watching. Bye.